What's up, Rockstars? Today I have a huge video for you. There are a ton of campaigns live right now. September is kind of the start of the massive Q4 push that we see when it comes to crowdfunded board games. So there's a lot to cover. There's also a little bit of drama, some announcements. There's a whole host of things to go over. Some shady deals I'm going to warn you about, so stay tuned for all of that. All right, before we get into all that news, a few announcements. So first of all, if you like what you see here, stay tuned, subscribe. There is going to be an unboxing. I'm going to show you exactly where this guy comes from. A super cool board game, unlike anything I've ever shown, unlike anything that's really most people have ever even seen. So I will be doing that soon, so stay tuned for that. And of course, a huge shout out to the sponsor of today's video, GameWorkCreate. They have amazing stuff that I just now discovered. So if you go to their website, not only do they offer awesome board games like Lords of Ragnarok and Vindication and Monster Hunter and all this stuff. A lot of Kickstarter stuff as well. Hard to get stuff. They have RPGs, a ton of RPG stuff, and of course miniatures. I will try and get maybe even like a terrain set built for them, maybe even film a Warhammer battle report on it or something like that. That'd be a little bit of fun, and I could be able to show their amazing print quality versus my so-so print quality. But I also noticed they have Infinity. I might be in trouble. That looks, Infinity is super cool. The one criticism I have about Infinity is some of the models look kind of the same. More on that later. And with that, thank you, GameWorkCreate. Feel free to check them out in the link in the description below. And I am going to start talking about some news. So, first up, Heroes of Xhandar, a trick-taking duel game. It has funded 15,800. Oh, no, 15,700. It'll ebb and flow, especially during the middle. 173 backers, 19 days to go. If we look at like the prices that you get, it'll cost you about $43 for the core pledge, though the Xhandar pledge is right there at 50, so a little bit more, and you get like neoprene mats and stuff. So definitely more worth it on the Xhandar pledge. We'll cover that, but if you're backing, that's probably the one you're going to want to go to. It's interesting that so many are in the core game when it's not that much more to get that, like and you get a lot more. That's totally worth it. If nothing else, for the neoprene mats, right? I mean, for a couple bucks more. And then, of course, we have the Heroes All-In pledge at about 109. So a little bit of a cheaper game, but I think it's also a little bit less of a game. So let's go ahead and discuss that a little bit. So first of all, as you can tell, the art looks really great. It looks really, really good. And this is made by Florian Fielder. I apologize if I'm saying that wrong. They're first created, though they have backed 79 other things. So it's always nice to see somebody who understands Kickstarter, understands crowdfunding, and is now creating their own thing. In other words, a consumer made into a creator instead of just a creator showing up with, you know, no research or anything like that. Okay, trick-taking, hidden roles, asymmetric. It's a card game, and these Bionicle dudes that you see here, first of all, they only mention Lego once, and they just say it's compatible. They compare them to Go Bricks, which is, I'm assuming, some kind of, you know, off-brand style Lego, essentially. Not off-brand as in like cheaper, it's off-brand as in like it's not some big corporate thing, right? So they can say it a lot more because they only mention Lego once. But you get these Bionicles, and you're essentially, those are like your Planeswalkers in Magic the Gathering, right? Where you're like fighting, except Planeswalkers nowadays in Magic the Gathering are actually like on the table, and these are kind of pointless. So let's explain that a little bit here. Oh, no hidden costs, taxes and VATs. Is included, so all you Europeans are, I'm sure, instantly elated, so that's cool. As you can see, the art does look awesome. I really appreciate the art. Like, I think it looks really good. Everything is bright and glowy, and it's a cool style that makes it stand out a little bit more unique. Also, they tend to wash out colors, so this is really blue, right? This is really green. This is really pinkish purplish. Right, so this is really orangish reddish, right? So the background kind of matches the character, and the whole card kind of has that feel to it, which I think is pretty cool. Okay, so they're even showing the Xhandar pledge first, as opposed to Wanderer pledge. 90 cards though. That's, I think, my problem. Even the Xhandar pledge, right? You have essentially the Wanderer pledge, which is 90 cards and then 2 heroes, right? So back to back. So I feel like 90 cards and 2 heroes, you're going to be having the same battle over and over and over again, right? When it comes to card games, when it comes to any competitive things, skirmish, stuff like that, variety is king. It will make or break your game. Offering more ways to play and more variety is the name of the game there when it comes to that. I want to try this, I want to try that. Otherwise, you can kind of only throw heroes at each other only so much when they're the exact same. There's not really a lot of difference there. So I don't think that's enough cards, really. or enough characters to like fight. So to me, that seems a bit of an issue, right? And also they have the tokens, like 2 hero tokens instead of like the minis, but minis, you know, the Bionicle people. But even the Wanderer pledge, right, which is like the core pledge, even that has the Bionicle. So I don't know exactly how useful that is. Like ideally you're using those anyway, right? Okay, and the hero all-in pledge now includes a lot more, right? Plus 4 more, so 6 total. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, with maybe another 2 coming. And as you can see, they're quite big. You'll notice this is obviously a Blood Rage mini that a lot of you will know. And so you can kind of see the size. It's about 9 inches from, you know, the tip of the little crown thing. And they vary a little bit too. They look really cool, by the way. That being said, there's like 1,600 pieces of like Bionicle Lego stuff going on here. So that's pretty crazy too. But anyway, that's about 109. If you're going to play the game and enjoy it, I feel that's the version you want to do. That being said, it's also hard to even see how many more cards that adds or how many cards are like for each one. So definitely an indie effort. They need to add a little bit more there. This is another thing that's going to be a theme in this video. So I'm going to be covering this a little bit, but you're going to notice more and more games. This is industry-wide with crowdfunding. If you have a card game, you're going to wrap it in what looks like a booster pack, whether it is a real booster pack or not. In other words, whether it's actually random or not. Everybody seems to be trying to cash in on their Lorcana craze, on the Magic of the Gathering craze, right? On the resurgence of TCG stuff. I did a whole video covering that, why that's so big, and all these companies want to be associated with that, even if they're not. So, for instance, they'll have a foil pack where you'll get foil cards, but they're going to wrap it in a booster so you get to open it up as a booster. Whether that's actually valuable or just wasteful, you'll have to decide what value that has. I'll discuss that a little bit more later because this is not the only game doing this. But just know this is not a trading card game. It's not even a collectible card game. It's just a normal card game like you would have bought it every other one, except now they're putting boosters, or they're packaging it in boosters to make it fun, I guess. I don't know. It's whatever. So, the Nipri mats, they look nice as well. They do have spots for cards. I know some people like that, some people don't. But I feel like, I don't know. I feel like the amount of cards, 76 unique, 90 total, just is not enough. So yeah, I guess you let me know. And obviously, like I said, the Bionicle stuff, that doesn't matter at all, right? So you get the tokens where you can instantly play, you don't have to build, or you can build those and use those for your tokens, I guess, but they're not really like part of the game. It's like you're like breaking pieces off or anything like that. They're just an interesting way to do minis. How do you feel about that? Technically, it's assembly, I suppose, but I know a lot more people are okay assembling Legos than getting out the super glue and assembling, like, miniatures. So I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Also, they look very well designed. Like, the hair looks cool on that one, and this guy's got, like, a guitar-looking kind of string instrument and stuff. So they look pretty cool, honestly. I think that's neat. So anyway, let me know your thoughts below, of course. Some cool stuff. Some indie mistakes maybe, or room for improvement, I will say. And kind of odd to have the Bionicle stuff and then also have it not really be a part of the game. Love to hear your thoughts. And of course, before I move further, all links are in the description below, plus many more. Control F is your friend. Go ahead, look at that description. There's a ton of games there. Some that I'm not covering because I don't cover them in every single news video I do. I try to keep you guys abreast of news, things, changes, or just reminders, but I'm not going to be covering the same game over and over again. So, yeah, feel free, again, description below, everything's down there. I maxed out that description. Literally, I cannot put any more in there even if I wanted to. Moving on. 4 Horsemen, an apocalyptic co-op game. This looks pretty cool. 38,500 raised, 233 backers. This is made by Jeremy Rowley. Again, first created, but 102 backed. Again, these people that obviously understand Kickstarter, are part of it, are essentially members of the community that are now creators. I think that's super cool. So first things first there. The idea, the gameplay itself seems also super cool. The minis are poop. So we're going to kind of navigate this a little bit. This will cost you a little bit. So $1 for the Pledge Manager access. Fully support this. It even says here, adding this to be able to communicate. Every creator should do this. You're going to get $1 backers whether you want them or not. But if they back out $1, they will get notified of your updates. That's super helpful to do. You can get their email and respond to them, and you can just communicate better if they're a backer, even $1. So provide that so that the dollar backers can just click a button. It makes it easier to go in, which is already good, and it allows you to do better at communication. Also good. It's a win-win for literally everybody. Even if it doesn't give them Pledge Manager access, which I disagree with, because why wouldn't you take their money? But even if you you say, I don't want your money, which is a weird thing to say, but whatever. Either way, if you don't want that, it's still worth it because even they'll get updates like forever, right? Unless they unsubscribe from it. And then even, so they might know your reprint or your next one and be a backer there. So just make a $1 pledge, please. That's super smart. Otherwise, retail pledge is $5. This is debatable. So the idea is you'll get in contact with them because you get their information once they back, and then you'll work out a price that allows you to customize it per retailer. Oh, you're ordering this much? Okay, then I can give you this deal. Oh, you're ordering this much? Okay, I'll give you this deal, which is nice. However, when you put out just like $5, something like that, it means they're not really helping the campaign. There are other companies that will put a retailer pledge and make it like $500 for like 5 copies of the game or whatever. Now that means all retailers are getting that, so it kind of evens it out a little bit for better or worse. But it does mean they're pumping in a lot more money into your campaign at the campaign time, which does inflate your number, and generally that's considered a good thing. So debatable on that. I could go either way. Base pledge is 66, so that's nice. Deluxe pledge is 140. The Baby Apocalypse, and we're getting up there, is 180, and then the Apocalypse is 266. So what's going on here? This is actually pretty cool, and they advertise it pretty well here too. So the 4 Horsemen features a unique deck upgrading mechanic. Players acquire relics that improve their deck while sacrificing other cards to combat apocalyptic events. And essentially what they have to do is like gain corruption, sacrifice followers, lose divinity. You have essentially resources. You're all working together to fight on these apocalypse, ending kind of guys, right? So you're like angels and then also like non-angels as well. So you essentially have these heroes that you're like trying to fight off these guys. Plus there's like some more like demons like Beelzebub that you gotta like fight and stuff like that. So anyway, that's what you're doing, and you're all working together to sacrifice cards and do that. First of all, huge shout out to having to sacrifice cards. I like deck building games, but I very much get annoyed when a lot of deck building games make it kind of hard, or it's not really a big thing to remove cards from your deck. And I feel that's just as important as gaining cards, especially because it allows you to then do a lot more mechanics where, especially if it's competitive, like you're inserting bad cards into the thing, so they're having to waste their turns getting rid of it and stuff like that. There's a lot of things there. I like the idea that you're having to gain cards, but then you're also having to sacrifice cards and then figure out who's giving up what to deal with what you're dealing with. So sounds pretty cool. It's kind of a board management game in that sense. They go over how to play, and that's super cool. And I dig all that. They do have a rule book listed. That's nice too. They have some preview videos. Feel free to check them out. I'm sure they're all fantastic. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. So this is like where you put your resources, and then you have your like cards here, and see their sacrifice right there where you're getting rid of that. Their expansions look cool as well. 144 unique relics, 172 in total. So again, a much nicer card count, especially for the beginning, and 8 villains. So there's a lot of combinations you can do. Each hero has a unique starting deck, which I'm for and against. I think it's and a unique ability. It's nice because it means they're all probably play pretty different. It's not like 2 of you are pretty much playing the exact same with the cards you're getting stuff. But it limits your deck building. If you start with an ability and you have a starting deck, you're kind of already predisposed to this. So any cards you're getting, especially if there's choice involved, you're kind of wanting to do that, and that's what you do. So there's less exploration on, I'm doing this guy, but I'm playing it this way now versus that way. So pros and cons to that, but either way, I like that they're showing unique relics plus totals. That's always nice as well. Here you have your zeal, your wisdom, your prestige, spiritual, demon, corruption, and divinity, and again, you're using those resources to kind of deal with everything. There's even a little bit of dice rolling. Looks like a cool game, to be honest. I think that's cool. The minis look like they're from the 80s. They look like pewter minis from the 80s. And I'm not like trying to diss on it. Obviously, they don't come painted. Just, it's a style, right? So this heroic style where you have a much larger head and larger hands and feet and stuff like that than normal is kind of this chunky style, not chibi, but a much thicker, simpler style miniature design. And that's totally what they're doing there. And a lot of sculptors, especially with years of experience, that's what they're used to, right? Because they were doing it back in the 80s. And so maybe that's it. I don't know, but that's, I mean, like, so here's the 4 Horsemen's Apocalypse. The tiny miniatures you got in Joan of Arc of these guys look cooler than this, I feel. They're neat enough. I like the design of them, right? Like this guy with like his growth there and stuff like that. Like there's some cool stuff there, but for the most part, it definitely you're not getting this for the minis. And you can get it without the minis, so there's that too. And dual layer hero sheets, also super nice. Anytime you have a resource game where you have little resources, having a little bit of a well there helps so much from like table knocks that'll mess up the, essentially your whole game half the time if that happens. Okay, expansions. You can theme this whole thing under Norse and a whole bunch of others. And it really themes it. So not only do you get 4 new heroes, right? But then you get a whole bunch more relics. I mean, 85 relics, not quite as much as the normal ones, and maybe you saw them in there, I don't know. But either way, you get a whole bunch of that. 32 events, which by the way, you get a whole bunch of solo events. So you get 32 new events here. You get 4 new villains, so not quite the 8. So it is kind of either adding to it or a smaller experience. Maybe they'll go more, and cards for 5 to 6 players. So this allows you to kind of like play with more people. That's why you would get that one. The Chinese one, again, themes it all, adds different things too. So less relics, more events, 4 more villains, but it also then adds like a yin-yang system or a moon phase system. So there's different mechanics these add. Then there's the Egyptian one, which again, you get more stuff in, 33 events, 70 relics, 4 Egyptian heroes, 4 villains. Now this confuses me a little bit because you go to like modern. So like, it's like, I don't know why the Egyptian theme has the San Francisco Bridge in there and stuff like that. So that's a little confusing. I'm not cool. It doesn't seem quite as thematic to me as it could be when it comes to just Egyptian, but it adds some kind of building mechanic there also, and demon gates, I guess. So it looks pretty cool. I think that's awesome. I think it's really cool that they're doing that. You do get a standees option, which is cool too. $66 is honestly not bad for this game. And I think I'd probably like the the standees more than the minis. So $66 sounds good there. Baby Apocalypse 179, you get all of the expansions again in standees. I'm assuming the expansions are also standees, but I don't think it really shows it there. So maybe, I don't know, $180 is quite a bit, but you do get quite a lot there. Either way, this seems pretty cool. I think it's neat. Again, link down in the description below. That one's pretty neat. Next up, we're talking about Worms, the board game. Worms is now officially more popular than Call of Duty, at least in the board game space. Low bar to beat, I know, but it is interesting. They're at $320,400, 2,600 backers, and still 13 days to go. This is made by Mantic Games. They're not really known for making fantastic games, but they are known for making IP games that you want to get for the IP. Now, and people enjoy stuff too. I mean, there are people that really love their Hellboy game. Totally fine. And, all the other stuff Mantic has made. So, I'm not trying to like shame anything or hate on anything. It's just, they're not known for making like critically acclaimed, super highly, reviewed board games. Let's see. So the Mayhem Pledge is about $101. Otherwise, it's $151 for the Armageddon Pledge, and the Retailer Pledge, $164. Again, you can get retailers to kind of pump in some money there. I don't think this is a good deal, guys. So I'm going to explain why. And it looks fun, right? I'm sure it is. Very similar to Worms. So essentially you have these hex tiles and you're just causing mayhem, right? I mean, literally, it's even called the Mayhem Pledge as the base pledge, and it's over $100 right now. Instead of like necessarily destroying terrain in a dynamic way, you replace the tokens with, or the hex tiles with like water tiles. So you're like around in water, and it like seeps in as you like destroy tiles, kind of thing. So this is also a project we love. 10 plus, 2 to 6 players, 45 minutes. And I believe it. It just sounds like chaos. Sadly, it sounds like chaos in the sense that I don't think there's really a lot of strategy. It's just kind of, hey, let's just kill a whole bunch of each other. Oh, I got more victory points, I win, kind of thing. And there's not like some highly competitive thing here. Now, that's often what you want from a Worms experience. Just know that it's very casual. Drink a lot of beer and have a lot of fun, and try not to spill the beer on the game. That's almost the meta game, right? You get 45 worms. They look adorable. There's multiple copies of pretty much all of these. So, you don't really get too much unique stuff there. They do look cute. That being said, while I'd love to paint them because of their design, they are super small. I'll show you that as well, but they are tiny. You also get some drums, some, crates and some mines here. And then some tokens and stuff. So, I mean, honestly, it's not a whole, a lot of it's just minis. Otherwise, you got a few decks and you're just kind of running around, attacking people and destroying things. They have like a win mechanic and stuff. So they've done a good job with the IP. Don't get me wrong. I think that's awesome. That's super cool. There's some weird stuff like assigned teams and starting weapons. And then it shows 4 teams all with the same weapon. So your starting weapons are a grenade, which every team has. You got the gun, which every team has. And then you have the bazooka, which every team has. And then you have the the steel beams, which again, every team has. So it's not, you're not really assigning weapons, starting weapons and stuff like that. So it makes it seem kind of more than I think it is. And then you just shuffle the supply deck and be able to get some stuff through crates and whatnot. I mean, it's fun enough, but it definitely is something you could play with the kids for sure. It's also something that is just mindless. You're running around destroying things. There's not really a lot of like, oh, let's see, if I move here and, oh, I played that so well. Like, there's not really a lot of played that so well moments, from what I can tell. Again, there are some reviews out there. Feel free to check those out, of course, as well. And it depends on what you want out of your game, also. So, again, it's about $101 plus more, so you can see even like the alternate sculpts and stuff like that, the daily reveal. You can see kind of the copies though, right? So you get 6 of each of these, right? So maybe you can, you know, like have a starting team that has more guns and less grenades. I don't know exactly how that works, because otherwise you'd have 4 of each. So maybe there's a little bit of variety, but it's not like you're getting anything super duper unique there. Okay, so let's talk about the let's mute that. Yeah, not safe for worms. The size of the minis, right? So you can kind of get a sense there, but I think you can mostly get a sense here. Now it's going to show it like there's a whole lot, but like that's what you get, right? A lot of those are just repeated minis. You can see it's just a whole bunch of copies of the same one, but those minis are like that. They're like 15 millimeters by the looks of it. They are not big. Now they're simple. Their design is simple. It should work great at that scale. I'm just saying, like, while you're getting a lot of minis, it's a lot of repeats, and they're super tiny. They're making bank on this, is what I'm saying. $100 for some tiny minis, a whole bunch of repeated minis. You can fit so many of those on a steel mold, print them out super quick. The kind of basically thickness tiles, a lot of it kind of samey, right? It's all just grass and rock kind of moved around, and then some water tiles to put in on that. It just, there's not a lot there, but people love it. The IP helps. I don't think this would have even necessarily funded without IP. If this did not have the Worms logo on it, and if we didn't all have nostalgia from way too long playing those dumb games over time, even like pre-3D, I don't think this would do well. This is very much carried by its IP. Otherwise, it's not exactly a great sell. If you enjoy it, by all means, if I got anything wrong, let me know in the comments below, and you guys can obviously have your own opinion. That's my opinion on that. Moving on, we got the Veil Resurrected Season 1, 2, and 3 reprint. 18,000, so they definitely funded 104 backers 44 days ago. Very indie thing here. It's a little confusing of a campaign. I think they could do some improvements, so I'll talk through that. This is by Death Angel Entertainment. They've only done this before. This is just the reprint, right? So this is like their second game ever, which is really just one game. They do have some stretch goal stuff to upgrade if you already were there. Like 36, it's cool to see the returning backers, right? So 36 of them just want it for the $15. Then you have the green tier, the blue tier, make it a double, and the red tier, and then finally the black tier at $420. I'm assuming they picked $420 for a reason. You can guess what that might be. Over 2,800 cards, so a lot of cards. I will talk about what each of those are. The one thing I'll say is the art looks fantastic. It looks super cool, right? Like that is some cool looking art. I really dig all that. Okay, so the green tier, you pick one pack. What the difference in all the packs are, they don't really explain that too well. And it's certainly not like very obvious, especially looking at the images. Blue tier, you get essentially all of one. I'm assuming like this stuff is good to have. So you kind of pick which group there. Make it a double, you pick 2. The red tier, you get all 3. And then the black tier, you get multiple copies of each. I don't know why that's useful. Maybe it is in the game. Some card games, you want to get like multiple copies so you can buy 2 packs of it. Again, it just doesn't explain it super well there. That's kind of the one bummer there. And they have shipping like right underneath, which is very interesting. I kind of like that it's like right there. It's a very interesting thing to do. They do have some videos to kind of learn through it and stuff like that. I think that's awesome. It talks a little bit about the game itself and the kind of the lore and stuff like that. So that's really good to see. It does have an age recommendation thing. There is some graphic and or disturbing imagery in the game. This is a dark fantasy game, and even though most 10-year-olds could totally grasp the mechanics, the visuals were not necessarily designed for that age group. Check out the game and be a responsible parent. You make the final decision on what your children can handle. I love this, and I like that they're kind of explaining that, hey, by the way, guys, this is dark, right? And then it mentions the campaign books offer or have mature themes and graphic descriptions of violence and death, and they recommend 17 up. Now, I don't know how graphically like descriptive this is, but if it's 17 up, that sounds pretty crazy. And I don't know what the mature themes are either. They just talk about the violence necessarily. My problem with this is they want me to like make my own decision, but then they don't really show anything. They need to have a link to some images or an excerpt out of context of the story or an example of the kind of stuff you'll be reading about, because the art that they show, like I don't see any beheadings or anything like that. Like there's nothing like gory here. So I don't know exactly what they're talking about. I believe them. I struggle as a parent then to make that decision if you don't show me. So ideally, they show a little bit more there, just to let people know. But that's cool that they have that. They have a how to play and stuff like that. The images are a little small. They could improve on that, but it's not as bad as some other ones. They're busy, showing off all these unlocked stretch goals and stuff like that, which is cool. I dig it. That's awesome. So yeah, again, link down in the description below. Next up, we have Dominate and Delegate. This is a quick update. I've covered this a few times. There's still 12 days to go. 54,000 raised. So that's great at 738 backers. And just to show you some of the stretch goals, that's kind of really the only update here. They have a ton. They've been doing really good with that. New miniatures, new missions, new setups, more story, secret endings. They have like, you can read this here. A ton of stuff, right? The thickness upgrades on the components and stuff. My understanding is it's almost all completed. It's like 93% complete or whatever. They pretty much just need to click print. So this is cool that they're doing that. Right now I'm at $1. I had to drop it. I need to manage. There's so many games out there and what I'm backing and not backing, but I do plan on upgrading that in the Pledge Manager. So this is an FYI, full admittance there on that. And again, Project We Love, there's a lot of these here. I love that. It's great. All right, next up we have Algomancy. This is another one. I'm at $69 here. It's one where you could buy 2 copies to get everything. It looks like a very pretty card game. It's not like a trading card game or anything like that. You get all the cards you need to play. It looks like a lot of fun. I think they put a lot of effort into it, and I think it looks cool. It's also made by a super smart PhD dude, so I'm assuming he did a great job because he's a genius compared to average old me, perhaps. But no, it looks like fun. I dig it. It's all like, again, everybody's kind of dealing with stuff, which is kind of cool. The only thing I could maybe worry about is it might be hard to keep track of your cards versus somebody else's. Maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know. I haven't really played it, but $69 for the copy. That sounds sweet. You can also get the print to play for like $5. If you just want to get it printed at Kinko's or do it yourself and laminate and all that, you could totally do that. You get 1,270 cards for the 120. That starts to get a bit rich for my blood when it comes to a card game, at least an intro, but I'll get the 69 one. And if I want another one, sure I can get that later. So that's super cool. Next up, Rebirth, Carved in Blood, 3,400, so definitely not funded. 40 backers, 26 days to go. I think I can comment on what this is. Now, this has AI as well, right? So there's AI art in here, and they admit that. But I don't think it's the fact that it's AI art that is a problem. This is by Andrea. First created 8 backs, so at least they've been around a little bit and are doing stuff there, so that's good to see. The Slayer Pledge is $54. That's not bad. $60 for a card game. I can deal with that. Lord Pledge is at 82 and you get an expansion. Then you can get the Titan Pledge for 108 and then that's it. So it's not too bad. You know, that's for like a neoprene mat, stuff like that. Not terribly outlandish there. So why is this struggling to fund? I don't think it's AI. Let me know in the comments below if you think knowing it's AI instantly makes them essentially lose sales, like a huge amount of sales. I have seen companies use AI art that's then doctored up and stuff like that and fund. So I don't think it's necessarily that per se, but maybe it is. You guys let me know. I think there's a problem where obviously, as you can see, the images are really small. There's a lot of negative space that you're going to see in this campaign. So the cards are small. I can't ever really see them well. The writing on it looks super small there. So there needs to be some UI, UX work going on there, but it looks super, so making big blank space, just some lore. Nobody wants lore before they even really know how to play the game. So should be that up there. They have some living card game stuff like that too, but then again, a huge gap here. And now they're talking about gameplay, which is again, super tiny images of the cards and a few sentences. So that's a little rough. They do have videos to explain it, which is kind of nice, though it's not really like, I don't know, it's not super catching, right? And then they have even the TTS. Again, super cool. Big space here. Now what's inside the box? You'll notice these cards look exactly the same. Essentially, they've updated their prompt to be able to spit these out. And then what it looks like to me is they pretty much take like the 4. So when you when you do this, you can train a AI to know when I say this character, I mean this. You can train it on yourself even and put yourself in things. It takes a long time to do it, especially to do it well, but you can do that. You can feed it in and seed it enough to where it learns what you want. A lot of them will do that. And they have their prompt where it's just these 2 characters and they can say this character and this character. So you're going to get slightly different variations of each character, and then maybe even like a dark version, because why not, right? So there's like, or it goes from a red bandana to red hair to, you know, like it's so as you can see, it's kind of weird, kind of different, but all looks the same. So I think it's visually not out there enough, right? Again, that writing looks super small. The characters are all like kind of this muted color on a kind of a background of blurry color, and that's what a lot of them are. Then you have like the resource cards, but again, it looks like, hey, give me this red orange blood thingy, and then I'll take every option you gave me, and now they're different cards. Which I just don't think is working out too well. Yeah, the resource and tokens, that doesn't look like a whole lot there. 3 tokens, and it looks like a small little rule book there. And again, a whole lot of blank space around it. So it's a little rough. I think that's really what's bothering it more than the fact that AI was used in the creation of it. Like, okay, so here's your promo cards. But again, it looks like you just said, here's our version of Black Lotus. But every version that you made, I'm just going to make a card, and now they're all different, I guess. I'm assuming they're different. I don't know. It's not enough of a sell to me. So I think that's kind of the issue there, is just for a card game, especially art, you want a lot of variety, you want a lot of interest. And I think you'd have to look at the name of the card, even though, because sometimes it's the same 2 characters on it, just slightly different poses. And you're like, which card is that? I have to actually like read the title. I can't just visually know what card that is, which can be kind of difficult. All right, next up we have Limbo Eternal War. This is an update. I want to show you the miniatures. I haven't shown these in a long time, and none like this. So just as an FYI. And by the way, I did back this with my own money. Yeah, if this board game hobby is expensive, you want to help support the channel, link down in the description below to Patreon, that join button for the Kickstarter version or the YouTube version of that. So Starry Games was there. It's their manufacturer. They also do like Dragori Games stuff like Arena. And these minis look fantastic. A lot of them are essentially the resins that you've seen before, but now done in the final production plastic. So you can kind of see the detail you're getting. It's going to be good, guys. That looks freaking awesome. So yeah, excited for that. Look at that. Oh man, that looks good. The like diamond ice stuff going on there. Very, very cool. So anyway, yeah, that's coming up there. I hope Bane that writes these, I hope he starts feeling better soon. All right, next up we have Neomorphosis Infestation and also a Horde update. So Neomorphosis, they are shipping stuff. However, you know, there's stuff like in USA, hey, they're trying to see if they can load in a single container. That can take time. It can take time because you can pack pallets differently, right? So you can pack them at different heights and stuff like that to kind of help, or even like arrange them on the pallet. So you can kind of do that. And there's half pallets and full pallets. I'm assuming it's a full pallet. So that's what they're trying to see. I don't know if it's going to be possible. They would just hate to like, you know, need a slightly more than one, so it's kind of a cost savings thing. That being said, it says it's taking some time. It shouldn't take that much time. It shouldn't take like a month's time. So hopefully we'll get an update here real soon on that. But anyway, that's actually shipping out. They're actually doing stuff, so that's super cool. I can't wait to get it. That looks like a fun game. So I'm excited to deal with the wrong things that happen in the ship or the base or wherever you're at. It's been a while. Okay, so they have the Zombie Horde. They're showing that off a little bit more. Again, they're not going to launch it till it's the Neomorphosis is done. I appreciate that as well. I don't know how big this guy is, but they show him as pretty big. I think he's bigger than this guy, and this guy's at about 40. So you can see that, you know, piled on there, you know, you're about 35 millimeter, 32 millimeter miniatures. So that's super cool. That being said, he's like bent over. So if he was standing up, he'd be at like 40 millimeters. These are pretty big minis. It does have 3D terrain, even some plastic 3D terrain. So that looks like a lot of fun. You can see here's like the gun placement you can do. It's kind of like a defense game. So I think it looks neat. I think it looks cool. I dig it. So that looks awesome. So I'm looking forward to it. I do like Darkgate games, are very much indies. They do have a few roughness around them from that, but I think their games are pretty neat. They did Darkgate as well. So anyway, I'll let you know when I get Neomorphosis. Again, back to this game. I appreciate all the support you guys provide. Next up, Margrave, the Marcher Lords. This one it could be cool, but I don't know. So there's no gameplay information really at all. It's a tabletop war game like Warhammer stuff, right? Or like Infinity or, you know, that sort of thing. But sadly, even though it's launching in 25 days, all they talk about really is the miniatures. So that's unfortunate. I would like to see what it brings that's different gameplay-wise, but they don't really talk about that, which again, a month that like sell your game, not just your minis. So they're very focused on the minis. And also I feel like they might be trying to be so organized with the minis, or they're not that different. You know, one of the cool things, hold on. Okay, so here I have a whole lot of minis from Warhammer, right? There's this like demon guy, there's this like robot thing, there's this like bug thing, there's this like jump pack lady. a lot of variety in visual style, right? One of the things that makes it nice is it's not just like, there's just a big variety, right? Completely different styles, and they're all intermixing, and that's a lot of fun. I mentioned this kind of Infinity. I like a lot of Infinity because a lot of it is unique. You can get like big werewolf people and stuff like that, but a lot of it is kind of the same too, where, okay, this is my version of a person on a motorcycle, and everybody has a version of a person on a motorcycle, and they're almost all kind of the same, right? So you get a lot of that too, and that's kind of my one problem with Infinity. While I love the gameplay, and the minis do look super cool, like that is one issue it has, and I feel this has it too, but I think even worse than that. See, one of the differences between, you know, let's say, you know, a Chaos guy and a Tyrannid one is you're going to have 800 million Tyrannids and, you know, so many, or my Custodes, where I'll have 18 minis on the table, and that's my army. They're very different in how they play. And here you'll see that they kind of like match it, right? So, on like how many you're getting. So on here, you're going to get 50 models, 87 models, 50 models, 87 models, 50 models, 87 models. So I think they're, like, I'm worried they're sacrificing true gameplay variety with the fact, oh, we got to have the exact same amount of models to be organized. And that doesn't seem like super interesting to me. And yeah, I don't know. It just, it's kind of a bummer that it's like that. It's essentially each one has 87 models, and so they're all the same. So the Eternal Conclave and the Helicon Conclave and the Banner Clans have the exact same amount of models. I don't know if they're like symmetrical or what, but that's kind of a bummer. And it can get kind of expensive. For instance, you can get a lifetime pledge for $1,000, which, I mean, honestly, if it ends up being a huge thing, that's a great deal. But the all-in's 500. Otherwise, you're 90 on a starter or 200 on the 87 version. It just, I don't know. It's kind of a bummer. So that's coming up. I'll cover it, but I would like to see a lot more effort put into the game and showing that off. All right, next up we have Unreliable Wizard. Speaking of not showing stuff off, please tell me what's going on here. If you know, tell us all in the comments below, because none of us know, apparently. At least I certainly don't. This launches in 3 days, guys. 3 days, okay? This is by Salt and Pepper. They've done other stuff. However, there's 2 sentences here. Like, what am I supposed to do with 2 sentences? There's nothing here. Like, how does it have 3,700 followers and they don't even put in like a preview? I'm assuming it's elsewhere, but they don't even link to the elsewhere. I don't know where that is. So I don't know what they're talking about. You know, this person's talking about a new expansion just announced. What expansion? What is going on? Please tell me. And please, if you have a source where you're updating, even if it's like a Facebook stuff, when you're going to upset people that are like, oh, I back it here, but I have to follow it over here, so I need an account over here. That's already a problem, or your Discord or whatever. But at least link to it. I found this, and it looks kind of, it's all this like crazy pixel art. It says Unreliable Wizard. That sounds funny, but there's nothing to point me anywhere. So I'm found going nowhere, and you can lose sales that way. So hopefully they can link to something. Hopefully one of you guys can. Please let us know what the heck's going on with Unreliable Wizard, and do I want it? Halloween! I want to let you guys know this is shipping September 15th, so if you want in on the shipment in time for Halloween, obviously it's coming up, where guys, we're already in September, October's right around the corner, you can back this. It is obviously by the Trick or Treat Studios. They do a lot of this kind of stuff. And in this one, it's like, what, $60, but they do have the 4 installments of $14.98 kind of thing, which is kind of cool. It's all standees, right? So you'll get the standees there, and you'll kind of go around. Again, a fairly basic game component wise. I don't know how the gameplay is necessarily, but you know, you have your like search cards or whatever, and you're moving around, and it's this hidden movement game where you're trying to, you know, hide from Michael Myers and stuff like that, which sounds like a lot of fun. Most of the stuff that's unique, I think, is on their cards here by the looks of it. They also recently announced that they are doing a 1978 miniature character pack where you actually get the minis. So that's super cool as well. That's $25 added. So it gets kind of an expensive-ish game for what you're getting. And just know that I don't think the minis are going to be super great. It's kind of hard to see the minis here, but if you look at the renders, they have some impossible stuff. Like look how skinny that like trigger part is, right? There's no way that's going to happen. That's just not possible at the scale with the plastic injection process that we use. You could maybe get that in resin, and it'd be super delicate and would probably break. But for the most part, they're good. All right, that one's a little iffy. And it looks like this is perhaps a little bit more of a legitimate picture, and it's just, I'm assuming, filled in. I bet. But we'll see. Either way, you can get that, and I think that's super cool. I know my wife is a big fan. All right, next up, we're going to have Dragon Eclipse. That comes out in 17 days. So this month, it's coming There's a lot more information here. I've kind of already covered how I like the art more than the minis because they're so different. Like you get a little Dragon Ball here, and here instead of a cool little Dragon Ball orb thing, they like added some like weird texture details to the orb. So like they're just a lot more busier and less cute, essentially. But there's a standee version that has some cute art. So let's dive in. What's going on here? Premium feel and excitement of a CCG without product randomness. Experience an exciting feel of TCG, apparently using collectible and trading interchangeably, but without a chance to miss any card. Booster packs. Booster packs, of course. So we'll cover the booster packs in a moment, but like I said, if you're a card game nowadays, wrap your cards in a booster wrapper, waste all that, and try and sell it as the same thing, and maybe you'll get more money. I don't understand, except that it's just a money grab. There's no other. This didn't used to happen, but now that Lorcana's big, now that Magic the Gathering is selling the One Ring for millions of dollars and stuff like that, and Black Lotuses are going crazy, and TCGs are on a rise, and everybody making a card game is trying to cash in on that somehow, even if they have to fake it. Okay, so you have the special edition for $120. And then you have the standard edition for $55. The applicable tax is added afterwards, right? So just as an FYI there. And they have acrylic markers and stuff like this. Is nice and premium, so that's really cool. And then both of them have all these, and notice a ton of cards, 600 standard cards, including over 300 action cards, 200 small cards. So a lot more than like 90, right? We're getting a lot of cards here. They do have stuff like the PvP mode and the roguelite. They don't go into great detail showing how these are super different, but just know that essentially this add-on is a card pack. So like the roguelite mode adds about 33 cards and just some additional like rules to make it a roguelite or to make it PvP and stuff like that. So that's really the expansion there, is making what a lot of times companies would just say, there's a PvP mode, right? Like when Arena was there, it was like, you get a free, campaign expansion or a PvP. No, it's just like, we have a game and it does both these things. Here they're saying, essentially, because it's game found only edition, they'll actually sell this later on, is my assumption, as separate. So it's kind of like, they kind of took it out and added it back in. Debatable. To me, it seems like day one DLC if it's like 33 cards, but whatever. Okay, so the standard edition versus the special edition. You can see the difference right there. So in the miniature, you're going to get him and he's like flowing back and he's blowing fire and he's holding the egg. And then here you have a cute little baby one holding an egg and it's like, is what I view it as. I so much prefer this over this one. It's a very different style. A lot of people, I imagine, will prefer the miniatures over that, and a lot of people just want miniatures, right? So obviously they're going to do that as well. Also, there's no real word on the size of the minis, and I'll talk about that in a moment as well. Either way, you have the mistling actions, or like the Pokemon kind of thing. The 4 sheet cards. It's kind of weird that like only 3 of the action cards are unique to them. So like, how unique are they really? Once you get in your deck, you're going to be doing a lot of the same stuff as other mistlings Pokemon. So I don't know the variety there. It seems like a very light game to me. Okay, so this right here is Exalted Gaidon. We're going to show this in a bit. Just know that I have no idea what size this is. It could be small. That render, they could make the size of my screen if they wanted, right? It's just a render. So we'll cover that in a moment. But again, I like the standee a whole lot. Look how I love this. So that's the standee art, right, versus him here. I think he looks cuter here. I think it's great. A lot of these are fairly close and a lot of these are very different, right? Like this one, far superior to me as an Imberling than this little guy here. Again, my opinion. They do have some cool ones though, like there's even, or like this one here, where he's like more obviously wearing, because he's not hovering over, so he's obviously wearing the coconut, and he has like a stick out like that. It's a lot better than like crouched over like this, where he's covering the pineapple and has like the stick. Again, my opinion, but I like that a lot more. And he has more of a scowl here than here. But yeah, they have like this guy, they have the Godzilla, they have the Shade Claw. So again, there's some creepy looking guys too, right? I mean, that's creepy. Okay, so like this right here. So they have like the evolved form of them, right? Exalted forms. This guy turns into that guy. Cool, love it. But I don't know what the size difference is, or even if there is one. They show in the render bigger. I'm assuming it's bigger, but how much bigger? And like, is it going from this to this? Is that now normal size? I don't know. So we'll find out. I'm sure they'll mention it. Let's talk booster packs though, because here they are again. This time it's CCG, not TCG, though they seem to use it independently. That's right. Booster packs, so they're not actually booster packs. So the booster packs is supposed to boost the amount of cards that you have collected or can trade, right? Like, it makes no sense to separate a board game, a card game, and then just wrap them in this. That's just a form of wrap in your board game, right? So it does offer, the ability to draft, and they listened, guys. They got rid of the tuck boxes and got high quality envelopes. So much better. Much prefer this. The envelope is by far superior. Very happy to see that than the tuck box that you're going to ruin. Now, the envelope will get a little bent out of shape too, whatever, but it's actually a lot better because it's a little bit skinnier, and they're kind of meant to fold a little bit nicer. They don't really have to tuck in. You can just fold it over instead of tucking it in, stuff like that. So it should last a lot longer, and I much prefer it. And it's closer to a booster, which is cool too. So, making your game 100% replayable. Essentially, every time when you first play the game, you're going to open these booster packs and get 1 legendary foil, 4 rare cards, and 8 common cards. Now, these are only legendary and rare in the order that you get them in. They are, and how many there are, not in the fact that you might not get it, or you might get it, or that guy gets something that you've never seen before or is cool, or that you were wanting to get and have never been able to get because you haven't. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a little bit different. See, they mark it here like, hey, how many are you doing here and stuff like that. I don't know if this actually works. I know they're trying to market it. I get that. Several companies are trying to market this booster pack thing. But this does the exact same thing. So the only difference here is the waste in material to do that. And if it's so much better to have that booster pack, if this is so much better that it makes it worth, you know, all the extra manufacturing and stuff like that to do, you only get that the first, which means your second and third and fourth playthrough are so much worse if this is so much better. And if it's not that much better than the envelope, then you're just wasting like resources and everybody's time. Like, just have the envelopes in. Hopefully you get what I'm saying here. The booster pack with the random draw, the chance, the chase is one thing. In a TCG where I got this rare card, there's only one of these. There are people that will open hundreds and never get this, and I got this card and it's worth actual money. There's value in this card. That is a very different thing than everybody has all these cards. I will have access to all of these cards, but what order will I open them in? That's a very different feel. So that excitement that you get, I don't feel is there because these cards aren't worth that, right? The whole point is the worth. When you open something and you know that this card sells for $200, you get a different feel than oh, I got this rare before this other rare. It must be in one of the other packs that are guaranteed to be here. It's not going to be the same, guys. I don't see it being the same. Maybe for you it is. Maybe just the act of opening it that way works. You could do that in the envelope. Just rip it on the side. Anyway. Yeah, I'm not buying it, but I mean, it looks cool. You get your little Pokedex you can do there. They love their binders and stuff, and the location book, all that looks like a lot of fun. It's very much there's a card game, and then there's the outside the card game, so it's like 2 different board games that you're kind of playing, which is I always find kind of odd. But anyway, art looks great. Look at that art. Love it. Love it. That looks fantastic. So the fact that I can get the standees, so really, I do like that. $55, I could get the standees. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of stretch goals, but I might be back in this. There are almost 40,000 people following this. I almost unfollowed it. But the fact that the standees have the original cutesy art versus the, you know, less cutesy version, yeah, I might be in, guys. Okay, next up, this is Vrahode. This is from Weathervane Games. I met this guy at Gen Con last year, and he was a hoot. His game looks like it's like there are other devs talking to him because of it. The 3D elements in here, I'm just going to play this as I'm talking, are like crazy. Like, this is like closer to like, I don't know. It's like Creative Game Studios does like the Chronicles of Drungor and stuff. They do the 3D. This is like putting it on a whole different level. Also, it looks like they really understand what makes scenarios interesting. They're showing a lot of Spawn stuff with coming out of water or flying down, like what you see there. Which is cool, but I like the thematic, but like the crabs coming out of the water. It's also on a circle board sometimes, which is also interesting. But then, as you can see here, it's not just a circle board. They have big old player tray things, which is kind of interesting. Looks like a very detailed story and lore and stuff like that. But look at that. It's like 5 layers high. Crazy, with like little stairs going up and stuff. Hopefully it's not too wobbly. I think that'd be my main concern there, is that, you know, it's like, you know, you bump the table and it's all ruined. But that seems kind of interesting. That's for sure. They have a whole bunch of expansions already planned. I'll be covering this, guys. I'll take a look at it. That looks, I mean, again, that is how you show, look at all the game you get. Like, that is a good way to do it. That is a lot there. Look at all those cards. My goodness. Okay, so that's coming up. I'll let you guys know more as I know more. Next up, okay, so you remember those guys that stole $300,000 from Gen Con with their, like, Match the Gathering heist? they got it back. They have the 300,000 cards back, so they gave them back. I'm assuming they're probably all still wrapped and stuff like that. They probably got cold feet because they are actually in contact with their attorneys and are expected to file charges soon. The fact that they haven't even filed charges is pretty crazy. I imagine they're building evidence still. It's crazy to me that you can steal $300,000 worth of something, and the worst you get for like a month or a month and a half is they have to talk to your lawyer. I don't know how, like, I feel like I would get in more trouble. This is almost like a privileged versus not kind of thing. Like, if I stole $300,000, first of all, the cops are taking me right away, especially if I'm on video doing it. And I certainly don't just have the, talk to my lawyer. The attorney will talk to you. We'll figure it out. Like, what? What is that? I think they were trying to recover that and they were using that as leverage. I don't know. But it's wild to me that that's the case. It really is. Let me, if you know anything about like the legality of this, let me know, or like history of this kind of stuff happening. I'd love to hear from you, because to me, this is like just wild that you could steal $300,000 of something. Like, that's like stealing a $300,000 car, like a super fancy sports car. Isn't that called grand theft? Like, what, like, how do you do that? And it's been, no, talk to the lawyer. I'm going to go live my life, free as a free man. Just crazy. Singularity. I've covered this a few times before. It looks like a super cool card game. There's no randomness involved. You literally build your deck and play your deck. One of the most frustrating things about Magic is when you build it to do a certain thing and it doesn't do the certain thing, right? And you just don't get the cards. So I like that. The art looks cool. The theme looks cool. I met with one of the developers, and I will be showing this off, so stay tuned for that. Also subscribe if you have not. And Trespass Odyssey has a huge update as well. They do have a pledge manager open now. They talk about it because they were going to make their own pledge manager, and they found out it's actually kind of hard. There's nothing like some programming to teach people how complex and difficult it is to code all the different logic, all the different laws and bylaws, and I don't know what the difference between those two kind of laws are, and fees and taxes and documentation and SKUs and address, and just, there's a ton involved there. So they didn't quite get it. So they went to GameFound instead, which I hope they're able to do their own thing, because that's also super cool, of course, and it can be customized, but it's difficult, and they've definitely found that out. They will be implementing stretch play, which will help a lot of people, especially for something as expensive as this. I might do the same thing, honestly, because I want all other stuff, but I don't want to be out of the money like all early on right away. But Into the Unknown is typically one that like increases it over time. So there's that. There's also some talk about the shipping cost. And so I'll go into that in a separate video. I'm going to be having a shipping video here, or to talk about shipping, what it's costing now, the trends we're seeing, stuff like that. So stay tuned for that. They will be in Essen, Spiel. So that'll be kind of cool. I will be there as well. So if you want to meet up, let me know, of course. And I will definitely be covering their booth there and showing off whatever the heck they're alluding to here. So that'll be kind of cool also. Now, their pledge manager here, just as an FYI, just so you know, I did back this as well. Guys, this is a expensive hobby. So if there is any way that perhaps you appreciate the videos I make, the coverage I provide, the ideally help I give you guys, maybe in the devs, there are many ways of supporting. Free ones, like just commenting, saying thanks a lot, appreciate it. Subscribing obviously helps, of course, because then people see that subscription number. Like YouTube will show you what it'll show you, but other companies see the subscription, and that can kind of help. But also just a like, that helps too. If not, there is a join button. There is a Patreon link. There is GameWorkCreate. They are mentioned down below. Help going through them to get something cool for yourself helps me out, because they know they came from you. So anyway, guys, have a great rest of your day. I hope I helped. If you have any questions, if you have anything I may have missed, or any comment, again, do reach out any way you want to. I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of your day. Take care, guys. Bye.